Give YouTube a second here and. All right, we should be good. We do have one person in the waiting room, G user. If you'd like, I could admit them.
Yep, I think we can go ahead and do that so that they can hear the meeting and hear the instructions at the beginning.
Right.
And we'll let them connect in on audio and then we'll get going. And I guess while we're waiting, I'll ask a procedural question. I don't know if Ron or maybe Keith knows the answer to this question. Is it necessary for council members to have their cameras on? Is there anything in the act about that?
I don't see any requirement that the camera be on. Of course, the audio has to be on so we can hear what they say, anyone says, and you can hear anything anyone else says. But I don't see anything in the statute that requires the video to be on.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we were all clear on that and moving forward. All right.
Just one more thing. There's no raise hand function either, Matt, that I
So we'll have to raise our hand.
raise our hands.
Yep. And for those who don't have their cameras on, you're probably going to have to put your camera on in order for me to see you raise your hands. So we'll work our way through this. There's Quincy.
All right, we are live to YouTube and recording.
My computer.
All right, sounds good. It is 6:32 on December 2, 2020. This is the regular meeting of the Holland City Council. And before we call the roll, I want to kind of run through a couple of things that we're going to be doing because this is our very first meeting by teleconference. We have worked throughout the pandemic to try to have our meetings in public. We were blessed enough that we had the space in city council chambers to be able to do that. We took all of the precautions that we needed in order to be able to keep ourselves and the public safe and healthy, but we wanted to stay in person as long as we could, because frankly, I think it's a easier way to run a meeting. Well, we'll find out tonight. And better for the public to be able to engage with us in person if they chose to do that. But with the new restrictions, we're not able to do that for the time being. So we're going to continue to meet virtually until those restrictions change. Because this is the first time, I'm planning on taking things slowly and methodically. And I'm going to ask that we all extend a little grace to one another in this process. Especially, I'm asking that you all extend a little grace to me in this process as we work through it. Matt Van Dyken and I have talked over the course of today on process. I'm going to do my best to explain it, and then Matt's going to fill in all the things that I'm sure to forget at the end. Council members, during the meeting, you will not be muted by default, but we have found that it is best in most of these meetings to stay muted when you're not speaking. If you'd like to raise your hand and be recognized, raise your hand, wave, let me know. I'll do my best to keep track of folks, but again, give me as much grace as you can with that. And then don't forget to unmute yourself before you start speaking. Otherwise, I'm sure that we'll remind you of that. And then immediately when you're done speaking, if you want to remute yourself, that'll help cut down on the background noise as well.
We're actually, Mayor, we're not going to have them mute and unmute. We're just going to rely on good old-fashioned. We're going to keep them unmuted.
All right. All right. So try to keep the background noise to the minimum as much as you possibly can. But we are going to have, Matt, correct, we're going to have members of the public muted by default, correct?
Correct, and we only have one member of the public here, Mayor.
And we've just got the one member of the public here. If anyone is here from the public who wants to speak during the public comment period, I'll explain more about those rules when that time comes. And otherwise, we're likely to keep we're going to keep the staff cameras on, but we may turn the public cameras off, the members of the public, their cameras off if we find that we've just got too many boxes to keep track of here. And with that, I think, also wanted to let you know that every vote that we do this evening, even ones that would otherwise be a voice vote, we're going to do as a roll call vote. It's just simply going to be easier to keep track of what's happening. And when we do call the roll for the very first time, please state your name and and followed by the words attending via teleconference from Holland, Michigan, or wherever you happen to be from, so that we've got a record of where you are located in the meeting. And with that, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Bird,
Present.
Attending.
are we good with that?
What's that?
Nope, attending via teleconference from Holland, Michigan, Quincy.
Present and attending via telecom from Holland, Michigan.
Peters,
Attending by teleconference from Holland, Michigan.
Garcia,
Present and attending via teleconference from Holland, Michigan.
Trethewey,
Here attending via teleconference from Holland, Michigan.
Arnshorst,
Here, attending via teleconference from Holland, Michigan.
Corbin,
Here, attending via teleconference, Holland, Michigan.
Hoekstra,
Present and attending via teleconference from Holland, Michigan.
Raymond,
Here, attending via teleconference from Holland, Michigan.
Mayor Box.
Here and attending via teleconference from Holland, Michigan.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Yes. We're going to start the meeting as we have for decades, even though it's by teleconference. We're going to try to keep things as traditional as we possibly can. We're going to start with an opening prayer by Councilmember Hoekstra, and we'd ask that you would join us if you would like to. I'm going to turn it over to Dave.
All right, I invite you to share in this prayer. Father, we come to you tonight, though we're distanced physically, we are united in purpose and in concern for this community. We ask you will guide our thinking, our discussion, and our demeanor to reflect the grace that you extend to us. Please protect those who protect us, and we ask for a quick end to the pandemic, and please to be with those who are suffering most acutely from the effects of that. Things are crazy, and we change how we do things from day to day, but we know that you watch over all. So we pray in Christ's name, amen.
Thank you, Dave. And we are also going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Hopefully we all have flags nearby. It looks like Matt's going to get one for us right there as well. So we'd ask that you all stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag,
of the United States of America
united
and to the
to
republic
the republic
which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Matt. We can always count on you to have an American flag handy.
Right.
Next on the agenda are our consent agenda items. These are items that are considered to be fairly routine and have been reviewed previously by the council members. They will be enacted in one motion unless a member of the public or a member of council asks to have one or more of the items removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. And if that happens, it will be placed in its regular spot on the agenda. But before we do that, we'd like to have our city clerk, Kathy Grimm, please review the consent agenda items for us.
Items 4B, approval of minutes, November 4 regular meeting, November 11, 2020 study session. 4C, oaths of office. 4D, Holland Board of Public Works, College Avenue Fiber Underground Project and South Holland Loop. 4E, city clerk, claims filed against the city. 4F, finance, September financial reports. 4G, finance, PA 198 tax abatement, set public hearing for Hudsonville Creamery and Ice Cream for December 16, 2020 regular council meeting. 4H, finance, PA 198 tax abatement, set public hearing for El Perigo Company for December 16, 2020 regular council meeting. 4I, finance, purchasing, declare items as surplus. 4J,
Management and Administrative Services, revocable license agreement, 139 Pine Avenue, solid metal fence. 4K, Management and Administrative Services, revocable license agreement, 745 West 26th, driveway approach and snow melt system install. 4L, Human Resources, amendment to the Priority Health Medical Plan. 4M, communication from council member, notice of proposed amendment to the rules of council.
Thank you, Kathy. Is there any items from the consent agenda that a member of the public would like to have removed from the consent agenda and placed upon the regular agenda? Seeing none. Any member of council that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none there, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support?
Support.
Was that you, Quincy?
Yes.
Yep, support by Byrd. Any discussion? All right, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Byrd,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnhorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. We've moved on to agenda item number 5, public comment. During every public meeting that we have at the City of Holland, under the terms of the Open Meetings Act, we allow for a period of public comment so the public can speak to council or to the members of that particular board or commission. This is one-way communication. We do not answer questions during this time period, but it's your opportunity to speak to us about any issue that you may want to speak to us about. We do limit public comment time during our city council meetings, during our regular meetings, to 5 minutes. Typically, we have 3 warning lights up in front of the dais. We don't have those this evening, but our Assistant City Manager, Matt Van Dyken, is going to be keeping track of the time. If there's a member of the public that would like to speak, he'll start his timer at the time that you start speaking, and then he'll mute you automatically at the 5-minute mark. So you're going to need to be able to keep track of your time. You can also, if you're a member of the public and do not want to speak during the Zoom meeting, but want to send us a comment, you can also do that at our email address that we've set up for that purpose, publiccomment@cityofholland.com. That's publiccomment@cityofholland.com. We gather those over the time in between the meetings. They're attached to the agenda. The cutoff time for that is approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the day of a meeting. So if you sent an email this afternoon and it arrived here after 3 o'clock and don't see it as part of the agenda packet, it's because it got here too late, but it'll be added on for the next meeting. We need to give council members the opportunity to be able to review and read those comments before they come. So if there is any member of the public who would like to address council at this time, I see that we've just got one person here with us. If they want to put their video screen on and give us a wave, we'll allow them to do public comment at this time, if they're interested. And I'm not seeing anything on their end, so I'm going to close the public comment period at this time, and we're going to move on to agenda item number 7, special order of the day, the disposition of properties at the intersection of Interchange Drive and M40 and at West 29th Street. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a few things too. I'll just let people know, you probably can tell that I'm sitting where you all typically sit at the dais. And just so you're aware, I'm doing that so just in case we had any public that came traditionally to the meeting at 6:30 and kind of wondered what was going on, the doors are open here so that if they come and walk into City Council chambers, we would be able to transition them to the Zoom meeting. I'm going to hand this off now to Matt, who's doing a fantastic job of managing the Zoom meeting. And he is also our staff person in charge of our surplus properties. And in particular, this is the first of a couple tonight. discussions on Interchange Drive and M40, and then also at west of 29th Street. So Matt, thanks for walking us through this, both the meeting and this particular item.
Sure. So we've talked to you about this. I believe this is will be the third time. This is the third and final time to make the decision to declare these two properties as surplus. You remember we went through the whole process with the Property Review Committee a couple of years ago, and these two actually are not a part of that review, but we are actually going to recommend later this evening that you actually dispose of one of the properties in the way that they recommended, which is to sell to the adjacent owner. But we'll talk about that a little bit later in on the agenda. So these two properties, this is the intersection of Interchange Drive and M40. It's on the southeast corner. This is a very small parcel, about 5,800 square feet. So the size of a very large house. Because of the required setbacks in that zone district, that parcel is unbuildable. You couldn't build a lemonade stand on that parcel if you wanted to. So the recommendation is to declare that property as surplus and sell it a little bit later in the agenda to the adjacent property owner. That's the first one. The second one we're talking to you tonight is off of the area of Homestead and 29th Street near Ottawa. The three homes on the south side of 29th Street are actually owned by the Holland Deacons Conference. They do some good work with some folks and approached us about if we would be interested in even considering selling that surplus property. We went through the process of discussing the use of that property with the street department. They're very open to selling the area that is outlined there in yellow, and you can see over in the actual property description. So we're asking that council also declare that property surplus and then direct staff to dispose of it in the most advantageous way possible to the city. Probably through some sort of a bid process like we did at 10th Street and 16th Street. I think most of you remember the dispositions of those properties. It's not really big enough to go through an entire RFP process like was done on 36th Street. But again, this isn't a sale, this is declaring it surplus. We would go through another process of getting that property sold and then coming back to you for approval of that sale. I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you might have on that.
All right, anyone have any questions of staff at this point? I'm trying to scroll through and see if I can see everybody. I'm not seeing anybody that's got a question right now. So at this point, I believe we're going to do three separate public hearings on this, Matt.
I would defer the legal aspects of that to Ron.
To Ron? We want to do three separate public hearings for the three parcels, Ron?
Yeah, sorry, I had my microphone on mute for a minute there. Yeah, we'll need three of them. We've got one hearing to declare the Interchange Drive surplus, one hearing to declare the 29th Street property surplus, and then later in the agenda is the third hearing to sell the property at Interchange Drive.
Okay.
That's further down the agenda though.
All right.
And then you need two votes at this point, one on the Interchange Drive, one on the 29th Street property.
So at this point, let's take care of the public hearing. Actually, I need a motion first before we do the public hearing. Do we have a motion in regard to the Interchange Drive property?
So moved.
I think we got moved by Trethewey and support by Byrd. Is that correct?
That'll work.
All right. And now I will open up the public hearing in regard to the disposition of the Interchange Drive property. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in regard to this? Mr. Van Beek, did you have something to add? Nope.
Do we have motion and support? Do we need to actually take the roll call vote to open the public hearing?
No.
No.
We do that at the end. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yep. Anyone who would like to speak in regard to the disposition of the Interchange Drive property? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any discussion from council? All right. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Peters,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Mayor Box,
Yes.
motion passes.
Great, thank you. And now I'd entertain a motion in regard to the 29th Street property.
Motion to dispose or declare the 29th Street property as surplus.
Moved by Trethewey, is there support?
Support.
Support by Edwards. Was that you, Nikki? Okay, great, thank you. I'll now open the public hearing in regard to the 29th Street property. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in regard to the 29th Street property? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing in regard to 29th Street. Any discussion from council? Seeing none, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
yes,
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Mayor Box,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. We are on to item number 9, written petitions and communications. As I referenced earlier, we do have an email address that's been set up to allow for the public to communicate with council if they do not feel comfortable either coming to the meetings in person as we have been doing or speaking at the Zoom meeting. That's publiccomment@cityofholland.com. We received those over the course of the interim between the meetings and they're here. And we do not read those emails out loud at the meetings, although council does read each and every one of them. And as we said, the cutoff time is approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the day of the regular meeting. So if you sent your email after that time, it will not be included in this group, but will be included in the next group. But we do accept those into the record. And I would entertain a motion from council to accept those communications.
So moved by Hoekstra.
Moved by Hoekstra. Is there support?
Support. Garcia.
Thank you, Raul. Support by Garcia. Any discussion from council? Seeing none. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
yes,
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Mayor Box,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Item 10, ordinances. Downtown Group adopt a resolution approving the ordinance as an emergency ordinance, section 32-29 of chapter 32, issuance of permits for sidewalk cafes. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, I'm going to just outline this for you. This shouldn't be new information. As you recall, late spring, early summer, this was an action that you took as council. It allowed for our downtown retailers, both restaurants and shop fronts, to have the ability to have these sidewalk cafe situations. We did have this on the last agenda that in the end, we canceled that meeting and moved it forward. So that's why you'll see that we're asking this to be an emergency ordinance to be able to take emergency effect. And really what this does is it just allows for our downtown retailers to have the ability, even with the cold weather coming, to have these outdoor sidewalk cafes just in this temporary instance. So that is the recommendation before you, and we leave it to your discussion and approval.
Thank you, Keith. Any questions for Keith?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
This is not COVID related. This is going to change the ordinance permanently so that whether COVID is there or not, they're going to be allowed to have these year round.
So Matt, I'm going to ask
Yes.
you for help
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Because
Mike,
I
this,
can look at my document to double check, so.
yeah, but this, Mike, I think the clarification that needs to be made with this is it's not the parking spaces. So this is not allowing use of those parking spaces year round. This is if you have an outdoor cafe, just like, Waverly Stone
The
has
fenced
that.
in,
Yep,
the fenced
yep.
in areas like in front of Parrots or 84 East or whatever the case may be, but it's still in the sidewalk area.
It's the use of that sidewalk cafe, the designated sidewalk cafe area year round.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, was this requested?
Yes. And recommended by the DDA.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, Quincy.
So with this, will there still be ample walking area for the public?
Yep, it's no different, Quincy, than the sidewalk cafes that were down there before the whole COVID mess started. So if you just think like, I think New Holland's got one. There's a whole bunch of them that actually have them. It's just outdoor seating. It's not expanding beyond. This isn't the conversation of going into the parking spaces or the different sidewalk areas full time. This is, yeah, just letting them go year round.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Any other questions for staff? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Byrd. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Garcia. Any discussion?
Yes, one more statement, I guess, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor.
No, certainly.
Does this regulate, right now it's an open air cafe type of scenario. Is this going to allow them to put some sort of covering over this to be able to control the heat or anything, or is this going to be strictly open air and you're going to be out in the elements?
No, so the biggest hurdle to kind of the igloos or these, you've seen a lot of different things, right? Those are all regulated by our fire department and the building code. So this does not, I don't believe this allows us to, or allows them to enclose those in. They would have to go with all the existing regulations for a sidewalk cafe, which I don't believe allow that. Like, we have had people ask us about that, about can I put an igloo in? And the biggest challenge to that, especially in the downtown area, is that fire code safety. We can't run extension cords. We can't, there's a lot of things that can't be done from a safety perspective with our downtown. We can't have 220 run directly in there. So really what's the limiting factor, the main limiting factor on whether or not places can be enclosed is that fire code. We've had a number of conversations, not only with Brett and Amy, but the fire marshals group, the Southwest Michigan Fire Marshals group there's a whole checklist. I mean, they did a really good job of getting ahead of this thing back in September, October. And there's a whole list of requirements that folks would have to meet in order to have a igloo or an enclosed structure out there. And that's really where the limiting factor comes in.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
So Matt, that would be a separate parallel process that is available potentially to someone, but that they would have to go through that process and get approval for that, should they want to pursue that.
Yeah, and we would probably ask them to go through the DDA board before they went through, or the PSD, or both, because that
Depending on
is,
where they're asking to put it in.
yeah, depending on where it's going.
Great, thanks. Yeah, Lynn.
So, but it was, and the other complication there would be that if they wanted to enclose it, it would then run afoul of at least the current executive orders for in-person dining at restaurants. So that's a whole other issue, right? So.
Yeah, there are a lot of issues at play with those indoor dining places. Yeah, they'd have to all be the same family, and there's a limit, and so there's a lot of regulations that fall under those. They're not just as simple as, I've seen some places that put structures up that look a lot like an ice shanty, a large ice shanty, and it's interesting to me how they're actually allowing that, but those are other communities. It's their decisions, I suppose.
All right. Any other comments or discussion from council?
One more.
Yeah, go ahead, Quincy.
So at the corral, they are able to close in their outside seating facility. What's the difference between there and on the sidewalk? I think I know that, but I'd like you to explain that.
A CRA is private property.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Next item, 12E 2.1, approval of recycling cart bids. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, thank you. And I hope, I see Aaron's out there. There he is, turning that video on. This is, man, I don't know, probably visit number 6, 7, 8 with all of you of working this process with the assistance of our subcommittee working on this issue. And this is an exciting night where we're actually looking for approval and have a recommendation to award the bid for these recycling carts. So I'm going to hand it off to Aaron to go through the presentation, and there's lots of documents in your packet. So I'm sure he won't go through every single page of it, but Aaron, take it away for us, please.
I appreciate that, Keith. So I won't go over too much history. I think we've all been through this well enough. I think just the key points to remember, we started this process back in January, recommending the transition to carts. Council approved that in April. And then we've just been working through the different variations of how that could work, which has brought us here tonight. So we, in the end of October, released RFP to provide carts to the city. And the RFP was kind of split two ways. One was to provide 9,461 carts for those residents currently enrolled in the City of Holland's program, and then an additional 539 carts for on-hand inventory. You'll remember that we have two grants we've received from Eagle and the Recycling Partnership. Those grant dollars can go towards those 9,461 carts. They can't go towards that 539 cart inventory. And that's going to cover the bulk of our cost. I think we're somewhere around $30,000 out of the solid waste fund that the grants do not cover. Part of that is that 9,000, there's a portion of those 9,000 carts, and then the rest is that 539 inventory carts. What you're seeing here, it's a different color, but these are the carts we currently have curbside. So we received proposals from 6 different companies, and those proposals are broken out here. To those of you who have seen an original draft or an earlier draft of this, we updated our numbers a little bit before the meeting tonight. With Cascade, they came in at our lowest cost. However, that's not the number you see here. This number is a little bit higher. When we did our original number crunching, we had made a mistake, and they provided us a range of pricings based on the labeling that would be on the cart. We had priced this out with the lowest label instead of the highest. So what we're seeing here is that price reflecting that larger label. So when we're looking at these prices here, you can see 1 and 2, Cascade, and a company called IPL. They're very close. IPL coming in slightly under Cascade when we account for that larger label size. However, IPL did not conform with the bid requirements. They did not provide a sample cart, which was a pretty critical component because it is nice to look at these side by side. We know that they're all working off the same baseline specifications from ANSI, which I think is the American National Standards Institute. Don't quote me on that. You might want to Google it to make sure I got it right. So we know they're all working on the same benchmark standards, but without having that cart in hand, I think those members from our task force who came and kind of kicked the carts around a little bit could attest to the fact that having that in hand was a critical decision piece. So We decided to list IPL as non-compliant and without that critical piece. Cascade is our current cart provider. So all of our carts curbside are Cascade carts. And there's a number of, there's a number of reasons to continue going with Cascade beyond just price. We can move over to the next slide here. This will break out just some of those price comparisons I was talking about. So you can kind of see in detail how all of these cart providers stacked up overall by per cart pricing and all the way down. And we can go to the next slide. These are all in your packets, and I do not expect you guys to be working through these slides because it's a little small here, but what we're seeing here in this bigger spreadsheet is just a side-by-side comparison of all of our requirements within the bid specs, and all of our contractors were compliant with the core requirements in the bids except for IPL. So this is all kind of a very muddled way of showing you that we had a very good and competitive bid showing, and we're pretty comfortable, or we're very comfortable with any of these cart providers to provide services. Now Cascade, they are a local outfit. They are out of Grand Rapids, so outside of our footprint. They provide our current carts, and then as part of the RFP, we required all of the carts to be equipped with microchips that allow us to collect basic data about tonnage and kind of similar location data and that kind of thing. So the nice thing with Cascade is, and we discovered this during our research process and our bid review process, they have actually been installing RFID chips in all of their carts since 2011, I believe. So all of our trash carts as well are currently equipped with the RFID tags. And that piece of infrastructure is critical for us going forward, just being able to actively benchmark our program. And if we want to compare our solid waste weights and tonnages to our recycling tonnages almost at a live stream level, having that piece of infrastructure in place is critical. So having a company like Cascade, who's going to be providing us a database for all of our recycling carts, having their chips in the carts and having their database that they provide us almost immediately compatible with the trash carts, if we decide to bring those online, removes a huge infrastructure cost from process down the line. In addition to just providing the straight carts, we're also asking the selected contractor to provide, be our cart provider for a term of, I believe it's for 3 years with an extension for an additional 3 years beyond that. So that's another key component of the RFP process. So in a nutshell, the prices were close between Cascade and IPL, and then they go up substantially from there with some of the other haulers. Based on the review and recommendation from the Materials Management Task Force, staff would be recommending that City Council approve a contract with Cascade to provide this initial order of carts, and then to continue providing carts and cart support service for that contractual 3-year period. So that's kind of rushed through some of that. Any questions from anyone in council?
Any questions for staff? Yeah, Nikki.
And Aaron, these are 96 gallon.
Correct. Yes.
And
So,
okay, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, I seem to remember we had a discussion on, after a trial period, would it be perhaps possible you would consider allowing smaller barrels for maybe single homeowners or an older couple who don't have much trash at all?
Yeah, and so 2 points to that question. So rolling out the program, I think it's critical, and the recommendation and the data that we found it's been critical to make sure that you have adequate capacity up front. And most studies show that a 96 gallon container provides that capacity that is actually necessary for smaller households. So that's why we are requesting that we proceed with the 96 gallon cart rollout, and then we monitor that for whether it's 6 months to a year, whatever the determination is. And then yes, from there, we would want to open up that conversation to say, okay, is this really working effectively? And so the nice thing with the data gathering measures we've put in place in the past, supplementing those with the RFID technology, we can really see, yeah, this cart for the last 6 months to a year has never had more than, you know, whatever it is, 10, 20 pounds of material in it, or whatever the appropriate measurement would be. So then we can engage in a more targeted fashion. So we can say, like, well, that's two parts of that question. Are they not producing enough to justify a large cart, or do they need some education on the recycling front itself? So we can have some more of those nuanced conversations with residents about their cart services. Now, another thing to keep in mind as well, under our current contract, we do have the backdoor service program, which basically the driver gets out, grabs your cart. There's a fee associated with that, and they pull it curbside and tip it. That will continue as well with the recycling carts.
Okay, that's nice to know. Thank you. The data is impressive.
It's going to be really exciting, and having once this technology with the carts, or with the chips in the carts, goes live, there's a lot of avenues for the city to kind of take that in whatever direction fits.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Aaron? Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to add on there, Nikki, that one of the benefits also of going with a Cascade is they have a smaller footprint. It was taller than the other ones, but its base footprint was smaller than the other ones. So it's not much, but it's a compromise for the concerns that we had from the people that have limited space. So that was another positive reason to go with the Cascade.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And kind of an add-on point to that as well. So we did bid this out for 96 gallon carts, but it turned out that many of the providers didn't provide an exact, or didn't produce an exact 96 gallon cart. There's some that only provided a 95. There's some that provided a 95 point whatever. So with the Cascade cart, you're getting that smaller footprint, but the full capacity. So that's also kind of another nice win from that standpoint.
Any other questions for Aaron? I just have one comment. I was lucky enough, Aaron, to show up on the day you guys had the carts at City Hall and got to test them out. And Mike, I was going to mention the smaller footprint if you didn't. But I just in looking at the Cascade one from a usability standpoint, in my opinion, was the most useful of the carts. Easy to open. It's got a lip on it that you can actually get with your arm if you need to. Opens easily with one hand. It was, without knowing even what the numbers were, that was the cart that I thought was the most usable of all of the carts. So I'm actually looking forward to having it in my garage.
There we go.
Something.
Well,
I think. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
If we go with the color scheme that I had recommended, you're really going to want it in your garage. So.
Oh, I know what that is already. Sounds good to me. I'll take it. There's some wording we can put on that too. I don't know if that was in the bid or not, but I've got some suggested wording for the side of the cart.
None of the designs are final yet, so we've got still some work to do.
We'll talk about that later. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes, Mr. Bibb.
Yeah, Aaron, I just want to make sure, because I know some of the numbers have been moving around, and just make sure as we're getting close, I think, to the point of making a motion, what's the correct number, just so everyone knows exactly what's the number that we're asking for approval tonight.
So, sorry, I don't have my report. Can we get that?
Yeah, hang on.
PowerPoint, thank you. So, I don't think that was on my end. So the correct number that we are looking at is this $464,770.95. Now that reflects the biggest, largest in mold labeling, which is effectively a poster that goes on the lid that's embedded full color into the lid. If we go smaller, it's a little bit less. And if we go with the smallest, it's even that much less. So we're requesting this amount with the assumption that we're going to be wanting to use as much real estate as we can. So that number may go down, but it won't go up.
Great. Thanks for clarifying that, Aaron. Just wanted to make sure everyone understood the number that we were looking to approve.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions from council? Being none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt the recommendation to award Cascade the bid for the 96-gallon recycling carts and to proceed with the other recommendations that I didn't memorize.
All right. Moved by Trethewey. Is there support for that motion?
Support.
Was that you, Raul? Yep,
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Support by Garcia. Any discussion? Seeing none. Kathy, would you please call the roll? Oh, I'm sorry. Before you do that, Kathy, Mr. Trethewey has a comment to make.
I'm trying to be polite and just raise my hand instead of butting in there. So I just want to say, Aaron, again, I said it the last time we got together, the group that we had, the materials task force, did a yeoman's job on this. And Aaron, you have outdone yourself as far as the research, as far as the bid gathering, as far as the data and what's going to be going forward here. So I want to personally thank you very much for this whole process. I'm looking forward to next spring when these things roll out and we start collecting that data and we go much beyond the participation rate that we have right now. I'm still pushing for 75%, so that's our goal.
Perfect. I appreciate that, Mike. And my one benefit I got out of this was really answering that question of how complicated can a trash can really be. So.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Absolutely.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, 12E 4.1, adopt a resolution to establish a local brownfield revolving fund. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, I'll just introduce this briefly and then I'm going to hand it off to Finance Director Lynn McCammon here momentarily. You'll recall that this was before you. We talked about it, definitely recommending not only establishing a brownfield revolving fund, but also then specifically amending the plan to take advantage of that fund as it applies to the Baker Lofts brownfield plan that has otherwise come to the end of the collection period for the developer repayment there. You had asked us to do a little outreach with some of our other local taxing entities, and we've done that. And I will not say any more because then I steal all the thunder from Lynn as she makes her presentation. So thanks, Lynn. She's going to take both items 4.1 and 4.2 here.
Thank you, Keith. Good evening. So I will start with the first item, which is the proposed resolution to establish the local brownfield revolving fund for the city of Holland. So Michigan state law allows local brownfield redevelopment authority to establish this type of fund subject to city council approval. So in accordance with the law, a local brownfield revolving fund is eligible to capture excess tax increment revenue for an additional 5 years after all of the eligible costs have been reimbursed. The capture is primarily only related to the local tax share, given all the restrictions on the state school TIF allocation. So if approved, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority would administer the funds, and policies regarding the use of these funds would need to be developed over the next several months. The funds can be used, have to be used on expenses that are eligible in accordance with the law But one example of an approved expense would be the use of the funds for public infrastructure in future brownfield project areas. The Holland Brownfield Redevelopment Authority did review this and approved a resolution supporting it at their October 7th meeting and recommended approval of a similar resolution by City Council. We did review this at the October 14th study session, and as Keith mentioned, we followed up with a letter to the other taxing districts notifying them of the intent to establish this. And we were contacted by only one, which was the airport, and they just had a few questions. Tim Bogley and myself are both on the call this evening to answer any additional questions you might have about the establishment of the fund.
Right. Any questions for staff? Looking for a late one from Mr. Trethewey? No, not going to see one. All right. I will entertain them. We want to, yes, Mr. Van Beek.
Yeah, and maybe just one more thing, just contextually, because I think this is something to be excited about. And I think this might be one of those moments where it's like, okay, it seems like kind of a mundane thing that we're doing potentially. Not that any work that council does is ever mundane, right? But I think this is really a potentially pivotal moment for us as we take a look at some really exciting redevelopment things that we have in our future, particularly with our Waterfront Holland process that we've gone through. I think this has the potential of really being a key tool from an economic development perspective to really facilitate the public infrastructure that we can use in our city that encourages accompanying private development and investment. So really excited about this. I know that the Brownfield Authority has talked about this for some time and definitely am excited about this and again would strongly recommend approval.
I think a clarifying letter, the letter that was sent to the nearby jurisdiction by Tim Bogley was very clear and made that evident that it would benefit us in our development. So I appreciate that letter being included in the packet.
Any other questions for staff? All right, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support?
Support. Whoops.
Any discussion? All right, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Mayor Box,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, item 12, 4.2, adopt a resolution to amend the Baker Lofts Brownfield Plan authorizing tax increment funding for local Brownfield revolving fund. Mr. Van Beek.
I'm going to hand this right to Lynn.
Great. Thank you. This kind of goes along with what we just were talking about. Now that the local Brownfield revolving fund has been approved, we actually will have to go back to some of our older Brownfield plans and amend them to just allow for this capture. So included in the packet was a resolution to do just that for the Baker Loft Brownfield plan. And this, as we mentioned, this would allow for an additional 5 years of capture. And it's timely because we have just actually wrapped up the capture on the Baker Loft Brownfield plan for all the eligible expenses. And that was actually done 10 years before we had originally planned to do it. So the term of the original plan was for 25 years. So even with the 5 years capture for this fund, we'll still be 5 years ahead of what we had originally projected. Again, the Holland Brownfield Redevelopment Authority did discuss this, and they approved a resolution at their October 7th meeting and recommend approval of a similar resolution by City Council. And just to give you an idea of an amount for the Baker Lofts, we're looking at about $200,000 capture for each of those 5 years, just in that vicinity. So again, Tim Bogley and myself are available for any questions you might have.
Questions from council to staff? Quincy? Yeah.
So this is supposed to expire in 30, right? 2030.
Right.
And doing this, we're still going to be ahead, moving that date, I guess, back to 2025. So doing this, we still are going to be ahead.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions for staff members? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion in regard to this item.
Will we adopt the resolution? Hoekstra?
Hoekstra, is there support?
Support. Bird.
By Bird. Any discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next item, item 6.1, gifts. Kathy, would you please review the gifts for us?
The city manager's office is pleased to report the following gifts: Department of Public Safety Services Community Policing Grant, the Community Foundation of the Holland Zeeland area, $25,000, Department of Public Safety Police Operations K-9 Program, various Holland Police Department, $628, Parks and Recreation Van Rolte Farm, Joel Zuber, $25, Downtown Group Civic Center Place, Jim and Donna Brooks in memory of Jim Herringa, $200. It is recommended that these donations be accepted with appreciation, credited to the appropriate account, and an expression of gratitude be forwarded to said donors.
Great, thank you. I'll entertain a motion in regard to the gifts.
Motion to accept with appreciation.
Moved by Trethewey, is there support?
Support. Bird.
By Bird. Before we have any discussion by council, I see that we do have Chief Messer joining us here, at least in voice today. And Chief, there are two gifts here, one of them quite significant for the police department. I'm guessing that you've got a little background information that you could share with us in regard to that. It's not every day the department gets $25,000.
I do, Mayor. Thank you. I do have the background for that. And I think I agree that based on the dollar amount is pretty significant. So I thought it appropriate to at least talk a little bit about the.
You're breaking up or we're losing you there, Matt.
That took place to get that. You hear me?
Nope. Well, I heard you say, can you hear me? But that's about it.
Oh, see, this is why I don't have the video up. So I'm going to try to make this work. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, let me try this one more time. Yes, due to the dollar amount, I think it's pretty significant. I thought it appropriate to talk a little bit about the process that we.
Oh, we're losing you again, Matt.
Through to obtain this grant, also what the grant, those donations.
Matt, I think we need to get broadband down there.
Yeah, so
Matt Van Dyke can give you a call. Maybe I think there's a phone number that you can dial in on this. You're gonna get
Yeah,
that?
that'll work.
So
Yeah,
I don't
Matt,
know if we try that. We'll do that. And if Matt can call in at another point, we'll kind of fit him into the agenda. Otherwise, I kind of know the background. I'm not as good as Chief Master, but I can give some background too if we aren't able in a few moments to get him in via phone call.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that that's going to hinder the result on the vote on this particular agenda item. And when the chief's able to get back to us again, we'll put him in on the agenda as soon as we can. So any other discussion in regard to gifts? Yeah, Quincy.
I guess I just want to say thank you to the community. I've been on council for 5 years. This November made 5 years. And during my time on council, we have had 1 week where we have not had gifts from different community members. So I want to say thank you to the community and for everyone who outside of our community who has given to the city of Holland. That is something that is not common. That is something that when I always talk about Holland being different, that is a big piece to Holland being different, is people who are not just business owners, but people who are everyday common people in the community who are giving financially. It just shows that Holland is a very special place to live. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for that too, Quincy, because that does need to be said. We definitely need to thank the community for the great support that they give us over and above the tax dollars that they contribute to the community. We're getting gifts from them on top of that. I think that says a whole lot.
Yep.
Any other comments from council members? Yeah.
Matt, can you talk?
Yep.
We're going to create a loop. Never mind. Yeah, that's not going to work. It was 50-50.
Thank you though, Matt, for putting it out there.
Number.
Reason why we like to have these meetings in person and not on Zoom if we don't have to. I always prefer the in-person. Kathy, let's do a roll call vote on the gifts, please.
Byrd,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you. Matt, are you ready for us, Van Dyken, with the chief yet or not?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm kind of scrambling on that one. I see on the next item on the agenda.
Yeah, give me a wave whenever you know we've got something there.
You know,
Next item 12E 6.2, approval of sale of surplus property at the southeast corner of M40 and Interchange Drive, revisit of a previous item on the agenda.
Yeah, well, this is actually a separate action to the corresponding action you took about a half an hour ago. So we did receive an offer from Casway. Casway operates Teddy's Transport down there off M40. They actually own the adjacent property to it. In your packet is an offer letter from their, I believe she's the president or COO, Helen. So Helen and I have gone back and forth a few times. She actually made the initial contact, and I think she may have gotten a little frustrated with the length of time that this process takes relative to the dollar amount, but we obviously want to cross our T's and dot our I's. So Casway offered $2,200 for that very small piece of property. As I stated before, it's really of no use to anyone else. It's a relatively small amount of money. But as the parcel is unbuildable, we are recommending to you that you do indeed go ahead and approve the sale of the property in the amount of $2,200 to Casway. That gets that, albeit a small piece, back on our tax rolls. And I think also helps with the ability of them to develop that property in the future. If you haven't seen M40 in a while, haven't been down that way heading towards Allegan, it's a busy place, and that's a prime corner. So I suspect the major benefit to the city is not the relatively small sale price today. It will be in the taxable value of that property in the future. There's been cleared. We've talked to Brian. We've had it staked. We've gone through it. Ron's been involved and actually has a purchase agreement drawn up, which I believe we did include in your packet. If not, that's ready to go, and we would close as soon as it's convenient.
All right, great. Thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion in regard to the sale of the southeast corner of M40 and Interchange Drive.
Motion to execute the sale to Causeway LLC for the stated property for the stated amount of $2,200.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Arnshorst. Any discussion? Seeing none, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Peters,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Byrd,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Next item, item number 13, communications from the city manager, 7:35.
All right, I got 55 minutes.
Oh, let's not get carried
Hit the
away.
mute button, Matt. Hit the mute button.
I mean, just be back here now.
Yeah. I do have some items though that I want to walk through this evening, so I'll let you know that I will probably talk a little bit more than normal at this point. And then we'll just know too that Matt are working in the background, where if we can get Chief Messer in with us, great. If not, I'll try to do the shorter version for you at the end of my comments. First, I just want to acknowledge, and probably not sure if you've noticed, my guess is that all of you have, that we've certainly started to see even more and more the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on people that we come in contact with. And we definitely see those impacts here at City Hall and in the other services that we provide. There's just no way around it that we're more and more, we're seeing kind of the stress, sometimes the frustration, and maybe even once in a while, the anger of people as it relates to kind of this ongoing situation that we have kind of spill out and sometimes even directed at City Hall. Just probably good to just acknowledge that for people, that we are seeing that kind of in a different way here, even more recently. But I just need to continue to let you know and assure you as council that I'm as proud of our employees as I ever have been, as I just continue to see them day in and day out, just continue to show resilience and adaptability as we kind of go into and out of various protocols and methodologies of providing service. For some, being able to work from home and still provide services, as we kind of do pretty well with Zoom here tonight, but it doesn't always go perfectly, right? But then we also have so many employees that you can't be a police officer or a firefighter or clean leaves off streets remotely. And yet we continue like everyone is, right? Dealing with different protocols. So we continue to serve, and we will continue to do that, and just continue to stay strong as we all are being challenged with a different pandemic. But I did think I'd just take a moment and just let people know that, quite frankly, we're starting to see kind of that wear and tear, if you would, in the larger community in the way that we have interaction with our citizenry. Taking off on that a little bit, the second thing that I'd like to note is, as we take a look at our meetings, I think we did pretty well tonight. We are looking though next week, where I think if you haven't followed, something that we pay a lot of attention to is that we do have the MDHHS orders in effect right now. And of course, just as a reminder, and for anyone that might be viewing this on YouTube or streaming, we were always able to continue to meet the priority of council of being able to meet safely in our council chambers. We were blessed with having a large council chambers and being able to do your business, in person, in public, and do it safely. But we were able to do that because under the prior orders, there were specific exemption/allowances in order to do that. But with the shorter DHHS orders that were issued, that did not provide for the same exemption for you to do your public meetings in that format. So that's why we've switched to this virtual format here tonight. I would recommend that it doesn't sound like any decision is going to be coming down from the state before the end of this week about whether or not these orders are going to stay in place beyond, I think it's next Tuesday, or not. But I will let you know that kind of the intelligence that we have, someone can weigh in out there. I think we have an emergency manager on council too. Hi, Scott. But we really do expect that probably next week there's a relatively good or a odds-on chance that those orders are going to be extended, so that we would not be able to meet in person next week, Wednesday night. when you take a look at that, the study session nature that we have, and quite frankly, not a lot of burning items that we have from a staff perspective that we would put on a study session. I've talked very briefly with the mayor. I'll hand it off to him too, but we're recommending that we would cancel our study session meeting next week and then would just take a look at holding our regular session on December 16th.
Yeah, and you're right, Keith. We chatted about that this afternoon, and as council members may recall, when back in March when we had to shift the way that we did meetings, we tried to narrow the focus of the business that the council did to just those things that we saw that were immediately necessary to take care of, so that, as Keith said, we could continue to serve the people of the city of Holland, but we didn't want to do any more than we needed to do in order to be able to protect the health and safety of staff members, of the public, and of council as well. And based on the city manager's recommendation, I think that makes sense, that we don't have the study session next week, but have the regular session in 2 weeks, but with the eye toward having it as a Zoom meeting. Again, none of us was able to see into the future, but based on the way things have gone over the last 8 months, I'd be surprised if things opened up that quickly and give us the opportunity to do that. And so unless you hear differently, I think that we ought to be expecting to have the next meeting is a regular meeting, Zoom meeting 2 weeks from today.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Can't disagree with that.
Were those the 3 items? Did I lose count?
No, I'm still working on it, Mayor. Sorry, you're gonna have to bear with me a little bit yet. So we're kind of building here. The news will get better with each one, I promise. I kind of gave you the worst first. Still though, as we continue to look out, one of the things you tasked me with is, of course, oftentimes kind of managing 2-3 months out and 2-3 years out. And January is going to be here before you know it. So as we look at the budget kickoff process, you know, we just continue. We really look at fiscal year 22 as being one of those years where we're expecting it might take a little bit more work. Just the level of uncertainty, and as we've talked several times before, with COVID going on, it doesn't have that immediate impact on us, but we definitely have concerns. And I think we're going to start seeing those potentially more as we kick off the planning process for fiscal year 22. Staff already starts really digging into that in earnest in January and especially in February. And I think of it as there's 3 kind of major items that council is involved with that kicks off that process in January. Traditionally, it's the Coffee with Council events. Secondly, it would be the way that staff, and we've done this a couple different ways, but staff really downloads a lot of information to council. Usually I think of it as we kind of take a look back at the calendar year, but most importantly, the kind of the 6 months of the business plan or the fiscal year that we're in. Then we ask staff to kind of download kind of what's going on right now and various pieces of information, data that we share with you. And then we also ask staff to really take a look forward and at least share their perspective by department as to things that might want to be on your radar as you then involve with discussions and give direction for our budget planning. And then that third step of the process is the advance process. You know, just as we look forward to January, I think we're still going to very much be under some various different protocols and some impacts of the pandemic. So we're starting to definitely have some thoughts about, okay, what does that look like? And what are we able to do and what's wise to do in the current impacts. So just want to let you know that as a staff, we're definitely thinking about that and starting to kind of kick around different ideas of recommendations that we would bring back to you. I wanted to broach that subject with you this evening so that, oh, I'm getting a feedback, so that you can definitely share your thoughts. I would invite you, I know I'm just hitting you with this cold tonight, but I would invite you to share your thoughts with myself or certainly with the mayor. I had a discussion again with the mayor about this afternoon. So no decisions, no recommendations from staff yet, but just to know that we're thinking through that and think we're definitely looking at some different processes, because I think we're going to have some different processes of how we do that 3-stage kickoff here come January. So Mayor, anything else that you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, one of the big goals of council this year was citizen engagement, and that's been a little bit more difficult to do face-to-face this past year. So we're going to need to get creative. As Keith and I were talking about, the coffee with council process, and we just can't envision a way to be able to do that in person that doesn't lend itself to a lot of cross-contamination, for a lack of a better way of putting it. We said, even if we, station council members at different places around the larger civic center building, if we've got members of the public going from one of us to another of us, we're just potentially spreading things around, which just does not seem to make any sense to me at all. But we definitely want and need that public input before we go into that brainstorming session in the advance. And so the reason for this, and Keith said, it's kind of dropping on you now, but we've got a little bit of time in a few weeks for all of us to put our brains together and go, what are some good ways that we can be able to the public to engage in this process, and let them know that we want to hear what it is that they're thinking and what's important to them. COVID brings challenges, but challenges bring opportunities. And so maybe we have some opportunities to try some things that we wouldn't necessarily try otherwise, to be able to do things a little bit differently and get the public involved in ways that they might not have been involved other ways. We've got the public comment at cityofholland.com email. Perhaps we can set up some sort of email address or website or portal or some way to be able to get the public to be able to get their input to us. And so really what we're talking about now is, put your thinking caps on, and we'll bring this subject back up again probably in 2 weeks and say, okay, what have you thought about? And if in the interim you've got a great idea, get it to Keith, get it to me, and we can try to flesh those things out and figure out the best ways to be able to get the public involved. Right. Yeah. Was that number 2?
Good. That was 3.
Nobody's new. We're not new yet to this.
Yeah. That was 3, and I promised it would get more fun and exciting. So the 4th thing, and then there's one thing after that. Hopefully, can everyone see this? Hopefully you've all received these at home. And, again, just such a fantastic job by staff in so many ways, collecting all the information. But I'm going to brag on Matt Van Dyken and by extension, Kevin and Eric again, just the theme that they picked this year with the colors, or with the pictures of sunrise and sunset in Holland. So beautiful job again. So hopefully citizens appreciate those calendars, and maybe even if you want an extra 1 or 2 council members, you just let us know. And although we try not to order many more than what we need, but just wanted to highlight that. That's always kind of a highlight of the year, I think, for a lot of people. And then the last thing, I'm going to turn it back to Matt, because he and Andy have been doing a great job, and we have another update on the dog park that we'd like to share with everybody.
Yeah, if you give me just a second here to share my screen. And actually, Keith, we may want to have Messer. I believe he's been standing outside in his driveway with his laptop above his head, turning around in circles to try to get a better signal with a strobe.
With tinfoil?
Can we get a picture of that?
How fast did I get that tinfoil hat on Matt's head?
All right, well, let's give it a chance. Matt, why don't you pick up with the great news on that community policing grant letter?
Yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
That sounds better, man.
Awesome. And yes, I do have disorderly stands. Get this picture. I do have the tin foil on my head, and I am hugging my Wi-Fi router. So I'm hoping this is going to work. If it doesn't, I apologize, but I'm going to give this a shot. So I thought it appropriate to at least come and talk a little bit about the donation process and what the donation will be used for. Since it's a significant dollar amount, the donation process took place, oh boy, probably a couple years ago. Our community policing sergeant and I were invited to present to a group of individuals about our community policing efforts, about our organization as a whole, but specifically about our community policing efforts in that program. They wanted to hear from us about that. Apparently they had been doing this or have been doing this for about 3 years. They went out and had people present to them and learning about various community issues, programs, organizations. So really, we did this a couple years ago, and I thought it was, we were not chosen for any of the grant money, but a few months back, we were notified that we were. So this group decided that they wanted to give this gift to support something they all felt was a high priority community need, and they chose our community policing program. So I thought that was really cool. I don't have any idea how many groups they had come to present, but they were out there for 3 years inviting people to come in and present to them. And then they chose from those groups that came in and presented to provide a specific, I don't know how many dollars, I don't know the total dollar amount, but I know ours was $25,000 to support our efforts. So I thought that was very, very generous. And this dollar amount will go a long ways. This donation will have a significant impact on our community policing efforts and will benefit a couple of our future events coming up here in the next, we hope in a few months, maybe beyond that, depending on the COVID situation, but it'll also benefit many community members over the next couple of years. And it'll go directly back into the community, and it'll mean in a lot of positive ways. We use that money. We do have some money in our community policing fund right now, but we use that money to help people out with a wide variety of things: food, clothing, medical expenses, automotive needs, gas, lodging, holiday gifts. The list goes on and on and on. So this money will be used for a few years now to help all kinds of different individuals out. So I just want to take this opportunity to sincerely thank all the donors behind this generous donation. It's going to make a huge difference for us, no doubt. And in general, really, it's also wanted to relay our appreciation for all the community support over the last several months. Boy, with cards, food, letters of support, emails, just all of our officers and firefighters being contacted out in the field and thanked for our services. And it's really meant a lot to our organization, our staff. I talked a little bit about this at the PCR meeting yesterday. You know, with the mental health, increase in mental health issues, suicides, those things that we see out there every single day. You know, with just one example quickly, I know because everybody wants to end this for the night, but one quick example is one of our shifts a few months back dealt with a fatal accident. Then they went from the fatal accident to a suicide. They left the suicide and they went to a homicide, which is a stabbing, which was not a fun scene there at all. And so that platoon was a little shaken. You know, I met with them the following night, and it was, you know, they see those things out there all the time. So when we get donations like this, we get cards of letters of support, it means a lot to us. And I just wanted to throw that out there. Hopefully people are listening on the web, and just want to say thank you to everybody that supported us, especially over the last several months, because it has been difficult for everybody, including public safety. So just thank you very much, and we sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. Your team does such great work. When I heard about this afternoon, I wanted to, that's why I wanted you to come and talk, because this has been a rough year for all of us. But your team has been carrying a whole lot of the weight of this for the community and do such a great job. And I think it's wonderful that the donors did this, but I think it's also wonderful that a group of independent residents went out, took a look at a lot of different programs that they could give their money to. And they looked at the City of Holland's community policing program and said, that's something that deserves our support. They're doing good work in this community, and to have that independent body of citizens recognize that work, I think says a whole lot for the work that you and your team are doing. So thank you. Thanks to the donors, but thank you as well for what you and your team are doing for the community.
Thank you, Mayor. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Matt, any other items? Or excuse me, Keith, any other items?
I'm going to defer my last item to Mr. Van Dyken.
Yeah, so hopefully you all can see what's on the screen. This is a little update about the dog park. One second here. Hopefully that's a little bit better picture now for you guys.
Yes.
Good.
We built a dog park.
All right.
There's some pretty cool stuff still going on. It's a rough world we're living in, but this project has been obviously very rewarding for all of us. We went out today. A number of us bought our own dogs out, and we shot the video to officially open the park side of the dog park. So that is now completed. All the fencing is in. Everything's ready to go. You can see it's there's a lot of dogs out running around. We had a lot of people in there. So we're finishing up a lot of that stuff. You may not, some of you may have forgotten this, but that little red guy right there, and pretty cute girl too, but that little red guy right there started this off back in July of last year with a fundraising piece. And he is now that big 110-pound monster that is really, really, really loving the dog park. So we're out there, we're fixing up the rest of the things, and we've added some of what we felt, and you know, the mayor reached out to all of you and added some what I feel to be very appropriate signage to the dog park. So it'll be another couple of weeks before we get the dog park open for the wash station. We anticipate the middle of December that'll go, but people are out there, people are enjoying this. We were trying to keep people out and they didn't want to stay out. They wanted to get in, so they're in, and we'll take that and post that video up to our social media in the next day or two and officially open the park side of the dog park and get that going. But I thought you'd, sounds like we may have a puppy in our Zoom meeting.
We're talking about the dog park.
Yeah, see, the dogs are here. So we felt that was appropriate. It's exciting. And again, I think that signage was a welcome addition to that dog park.
I want to, Matt, thank you for that. I want to give credit where credit is due. The idea of the signage there, I believe, actually came from staff due to the undying and dedication of Mike Trethui to make sure that this dog park got set. All we as council did is said, yeah, we think that's a great idea, but that was definitely staff doing in recognition of the great work that Mike Trethui did. So congratulations to the staff. Congratulations on getting the park going, and to Mike as well. Any comments, Mr. Trail?
Yeah, I kind of happenstance. Some of our friends did some walking this morning, and my wife sends me this text showing me the sign and said, "Did you have any idea what this was?" And I said, "No." So me being the guy that I am, I had to go over there, and Andy happened to be there. And I was texting Matt and said, you know, this is extremely humbling. Thank you all. That if you have not been out there, you've got to get out there. Those two guys did a fantastic job. The layout of the park, the layout of the trails, the washroom, the restroom, everything is just absolutely perfect. It's going to add an awful lot to the 24th Street side of that. So I appreciate all the councils that have put up with me over all these years as far as this dog park goes. Matt, you've got to send that along with a picture of the dog park to Soren. That's got to be. He was the one that, and Greg, they both said, no, that ain't going to happen. So again, I truly appreciate all the support that you guys have given. I think it's going to be a great asset. I'm looking very, very forward to it being used and people having a good time out there. So thank you very much.
Great.
So I want to jump in here one second too with two items. One, just give credit where it's due. Jay actually was the one that really had the idea. So thank you, Mayor, for crediting us, but you really need to credit Jay. So, hey, Mike, you know, you guys hassle each other, but Jay was the one that had this good idea. So
wow,
credit to him, number one.
Way to go, Jay.
And then also,
thank you, Jay.
You're welcome.
You bet. And then also, Matt, we're taking a look at, I don't know if we've got it locked in yet, but hold the date. What we're looking to do is kind of a soft, kind of a celebration opening. And remind me that we're looking at the Saturday.
The 19th.
The 19th.
Of December. Yep. A soft opening, just a welcoming. And then we'd like to do something a little bit bigger, perhaps in the springtime, just because of the cold. But we feel we want to do something, a little ribbon cutting, a little something. Mike can get his picture taken under the sign, all that good stuff. So the 19th, you'll see something coming out from Andy's office on that.
Cool.
And then that's it, Mr. Mayor.
All right. I've got a couple of items on mine. I got to get to the right screen here. I see that it's 8:01, so you ate up most of my time there, Keith, but we'll get through this. First item I've got are some appointments to city boards and commissions. I would ask that the council accept the appointment of Raymond Soto Lopez to the Teen Court Advisory Board for a partial term. Said partial term expiring March 3 of 2022. Mr. Soto Lopez will replace board member Tanya Kimber, who is no longer eligible to serve on the Teen Court Advisory Board. And then also please accept the reappointments of Mark Geister to the Teen Court Advisory Board for his second full term, said full term expiring December 1 of 2022. Derek Dahlman to the Teen Court Advisory Board for his second full term, said full term expiring December 1, 2022. Veronica Salazar to the Teen Court Advisory Board for her second full term, said term expiring December 1 of 2022. And Gregory Accardo to the Building Authority for his third full term, said full term expiring November 30, 2025. And then also please accept the resignations of Tanya Kimber from the Teen Court Advisory Board effective November 17 of 2020. Board member Kimber has moved into a different position and department within the Ottawa County Sheriff's Department, making her ineligible to continue to serve on the Teen Court Advisory Board, and also the resignation of Ron Price from the Human Relations Commission effective November 18, 2020. So I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Moved by Trethewey. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Airsource. Any discussion? Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yeah.
Peters,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And then next item, and I apologize, having a little issue with my computer. There it is. Comes back up. It's in regard to our recycling program that we discussed earlier with the containers. We received a wonderful communication from the Recycling Partnership congratulating us on moving from a bag-based system to a cart-based system. Just want to read just a couple of paragraphs from the letter because I think it's important for the public to hear this as well. It says, on behalf of the Recycling Partnership, I wish to commend you and your staff on all of your hard work to protect the well-being of both the people and environment of Holland. In light of COVID-19 and beyond, in the midst of such challenging times, they're excited to be providing a cash grant of $151,856 in direct financial assistance this year to support the City of Holland in our transition to cart-based recycling and solid waste collection, including new recycling carts and education for the nearly 9,500 households in our community. This grant is part of the statewide initiative supported by the Recycling Partnership and the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy to provide more than 100 communities across all of Michigan with support for recycling improvements. We want to celebrate the city council vote earlier this week, and this was back in November, and our leadership in prioritizing this move away from bag-based recycling. This effort will reduce the program's dependence on single-use bags and significantly improve worker safety, as well as the quality and quantity of recycled materials collected in Holland. The recyclable materials collected by Holland's recycling program become important feedstock for U.S. manufacturing and essential service. These raw materials are necessary for the production of many critical products, especially during the COVID-19 crisis, such as cardboard boxes for home delivery, toilet paper, and safe packaging for food and medical supplies, according to the Institute of Scrap Recycling Industries. In Michigan, recycling generates more than $3.4 billion in economic impact, including $1 billion in wages, $367 million in tax revenue, and more than 17,800 jobs. They are thrilled to be able to partner with Holland and to support this important advancement for recycling in our community. So I think that's a wonderful recognition of what we're doing and a fantastic cash grant that goes along with it. So wonderful to be able to share that news with the entire community. And then I have one last item, and I got to take a drink of water. I apologize. And a little tickle. And last Saturday, as hopefully all of you knew, last Saturday was Small Business Saturday, and we did have this ready to go for the last regular meeting, which we ended up having to cancel. But if any of you were downtown last Saturday, it was booming. People in Holland and the surrounding area definitely recognized our small businesses. And as part of that, I made a proclamation of last Saturday as Saturday in the city of Holland. The proclamation is, whereas the government of Holland, Michigan celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 31.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.9% of all firms with paid employees in the United States. And they're responsible for 65.1% of net new jobs created from the year 2000 to 2019. And whereas small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 62% of US small businesses reported that they need to see consumer spending return to pre-COVID-19 levels by the end of 2020 in order to stay in business. 65% of US small business owners said it would be most helpful to their business to have their regulars return and start making purchases again. And 3/4 of US consumers are currently looking for ways to shop small and to support their community. And whereas 96% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that shopping at small, independently owned businesses support their commitment to making purchases that have a positive social, economic, and environmental impact. And 97% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that small businesses are essential to their community. And whereas 95% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday reported the day makes them want to shop or eat at small, independently owned businesses all year long, not just during the holiday season. And whereas Holland, Michigan supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday, I, Nathan Box, Mayor of Holland, Michigan, do hereby proclaim November 28, 2020 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. This proclamation was given under my hand and the seal of the City of Holland on the 18th of November, 2020. Now, just because Small Business Saturday was last Saturday does not mean that we don't have to continue supporting our local small businesses. We passed a resolution tonight to allow those sidewalk cafes to continue all winter long. Let's make sure those seats stay full. Let's make sure people are in those businesses so that our downtown businesses and all
Chamber meeting.
can continue on. And I believe that is all that I have. Item number 15, appointments, motions, and communications from council members. Any council members who have communications or motions? Yes, Mr. Hoekstra, ringing the bell.
Thank you. First bells of Christmas, doth ring. I want to take just a moment to speak with you all, my colleagues, about an activity that is undertaken every year by the Human Relations Commission, and that is their Social Justice Awards. Many of you will recall that historically, those awards have been incorporated into the agenda of the city council meeting. Usually it happens in around Martin Luther King Day, late January and so forth. And that's, as far back as I can recall, that's when it occurred. And many people took part in that and participated in it. At one point in time, a number of years ago, the decision was made to remove it from the official meeting agenda, and it was held then prior to city council meeting. Quite frankly, I've always thought that was a bit odd. And I've talked to a number of other people recently, the last few months, who are of the same opinion, who thought that it was kind of a strange move, and not having it incorporated into our agenda with city council being present sent the wrong kind of message, if you will. That's what I've heard from a number of people. So thinking about that, thought about the opportunity to reincorporate it into the agenda of city council within the confines of our meeting. Brought that to the attention of the Human Relations Commission, so they're aware of it, and they're thinking about it too. So I'd like to address that in a little bit formal manner in a minute. But one other point I'd like to make, just as we're meeting in this virtual setting right now, no one really knows within the next 2, 3, 4 months or even more, what the environment's going to be like for holding meetings and so forth. And that particular occasion attracts a lot of people. And when they leave to have their reception, it's like a ghost town for the rest of the council meeting, but that's okay. So they are going to have to work through how they're going to approach it this year. It's very possible that it could take on a virtual nature, just as we are. So that's very much up in the air. But generally speaking, from sentiments that I've heard and what I personally feel about it, I think it would be good to invite the Human Relations Commission to once again present their award ceremony as part of our agenda. So to facilitate discussion on your part and play by the rules here, I'd like to make a motion, if I may, that being that an invitation be extended to the Human Relations Commission to include the Social Justice Award ceremony into a council business meeting agenda, and that we forward a written notice of that intent to the HRC. So I make that a motion.
All right, moved by Hoekstra. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Peters. Discussion from council.
So when did this change? That it used to be in the council meeting itself?
I look back on that. I think it may have, and it seems odd that it is this long ago, but I think it may have been like 9 or 10 years ago. Now that it was changed. Interestingly, I think around the same time that the first vote on the LGBTQ issue was made, not long after that.
And do we know why it was changed? It must have made sense on some level.
Some of us know. I would,
Are you? Okay,
in this format and at this juncture, I would simply say that it was an executive decision.
I see. Okay.
Any other, Scott?
Yeah, so Mr. Hoekstra, I mean, we have a number of boards and committees within the city of Holland. At what point are we going to extend that same invitation for all of our board meetings, for all those committees and for, and boards that we have in place?
Well, Scott, as the mayor actually pointed out to me, there are several other things that the city acknowledges. There are things related to tulip time that we acknowledge and support. Holland and Bloom in the past, when those awards have been made, those have been presented and acknowledged in session. Almost annually, the Youth Advisory Board brings forth their nominees and participants, and we have them within the context of the meeting introduced and so forth. Not every board and commission has an activity like the Social Justice Awards, obviously. So, you know, not everyone is going to come forth with something, but this is not unique necessarily to HRC, if that answers your question.
Scott, follow up, and then we'll go to Lynn.
So follow up on just with Councilman Hoekstra. So when you're mentioning the various other groups that you talked about, it's based on an award they received elsewhere, and we're just acknowledging they had received an award as an organization. And so I just want to make sure I understand this. We acknowledge that they received the award, or they're there to give a report on what has happened within the context of city, how the city interacts with the organization. But I just want to make sure I understand more of these different organizations or boards or committees that we have, extending that same level of courtesy to them as well within our board meetings.
I'll offer my opinion, Scott, on that, and that if another board or commission, obviously there's, well, maybe not obviously, but there is room within the way that we operate for a board or commission to come forward with a report and provide that to council, and it would be received due to the nature of the way that we do things in our protocol. That would be received within the context of a city council meeting. Again, you know, the nature of the Social Justice Awards is pretty unique to HRC, but it is one of their primary functions. So in a sense, it is a report on an activity that they do, which is, you know, it's something that is an enhancement for the community.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that the council made a decision several years ago to specifically tell the HRC that they no longer welcome to present this during a council meeting. So it would seem to me that it makes sense to say to them, you're welcome to now make those presentations at a council meeting. And I would say we could say that to any group that wants to make a presentation. I would welcome any, if this is happening in other committees, let's do that. But I think the reason it's important for us to do this now for the Human Relations Commission is that they were specifically asked not to. And so I think it's important for us to show our support for the Social Justice Awards and welcome them back.
Yeah, Mike.
All right, let me, if I might, Lynn, I respect what you're saying, but I don't think you have all the facts. I was there. The major reason, and Dave and Jay can agree or disagree with me, there is speculation as to what happened. One of the biggest reasons we did is we did not want to take away from by having us sit behind. That was the biggest reason. If we want to bring it back in and make it part of the agenda, so be it. I mean, it is a city function, but let's not speculate on things we don't know about let's go with the facts as presented and make our decision based on that.
Lynn?
I'm not making any speculation, Mike. I'm not making any speculations about why it happened. It just happened. We asked them not, for whatever reason, they were asked not to present at the meetings any longer, and we decided to do it in a different way. So now, because we're specifically saying we'd like to change that. And so I think it's important to do that because there was a decision made for whatever reason to not do that at a regular council meeting.
Right, and it was, I'm sorry, Nathan, if I can follow up on that. It was, in a roundabout way, it was still part of the meeting because it was at the beginning of the meeting. It was not after the formal recognition of the meeting starting and things like that. So I understand what you're saying. But council was still present. Council was still recognized the fact that they were there. We just weren't sitting behind the dais, and it happened actually at 7 o'clock during our normal business time. It was not ahead of that. And it was recognized that this was going to be preceding the council meeting, and the council meeting would formally start after that. So
Chris,
that's all. I appreciate the misunderstanding. I don't want us to go into this with some hard feelings that were not there. It was never intended to be malice. To me, the way it was presented to me at the time that we did it was very innocent, and I thought a very good idea to make sure that because of all the work that the HRC had done, putting the focus on the recipients without us being behind there, we could see what was going on, because you've been to enough meetings now when there's presentations. There's a great big group there, especially here. Technically, they're supposed to be presenting to us, which would put their backs to the audience. So we tried to do something different there. If we want to change it, okay, I'm fine with that. I'm a little concerned that there's misperception, and maybe it was completely innocent, but that there was misperception as to what actually happened, and there was no malice meant when it started.
Yeah,
that's all I was trying to. That's all I was trying to clear up.
And I appreciate that. Certainly wasn't what I meant to imply. Dave, is the HRC interested in making a change in how they present is that where this is coming from? Are you, have they expressed an interest?
Yes, they've discussed it at the last 2 meetings that they've had. Was actually an agenda item for them last time. And they just decided to think about it a little bit further. So by doing this, essentially, it gives them the opportunity to accept or deny, or depending on how they're going to have to do this, it gives them the opportunity to do whatever makes sense to them. But at least
thank you so much.
It sends a message from council that they're welcome to do that. So they're ready to consider it.
I'm new here as well. I've only been officially here for one of these. What I'm hearing Mike say is that the presentations for the last several years anyway have taken place during the regular city council meeting time. They started at 7 o'clock, or they were at some point after 7 o'clock when the meeting started at 7. Council members just weren't sitting up at the dais, but we were present. And Mike's perception is that was being done. Council was not on the dais so that we didn't take away from the presentation to those folks. I guess my question would be if Human Relations Commission would rather have council sitting at the dais than standing in the back, if the thing's taking place at the same time, I'm more inclined to do what's respectful to the Human Relations Commission. And I think the Human Relations Commission is the one that gets to make that determination of whether they would want us sitting in the chairs or not. If we're saying, hey, we're happy to be in the chairs or not be in the chairs, that's great. And then I think it falls to HRC. Quincy, I'm pointing at the screen.
You there.
I'm going to have to disagree with you. They don't get to make that decision. We get to make that decision. And I didn't know that this was done the way that Dave's proposing before. I didn't understand that. I didn't know that. But with us sitting back there, I think that takes away from what they're doing. So I guess I'm not in agreement with that. I can't support that. I remember my first meeting was during this time, and there was no one sitting back there, and all the attention was on the presenter and the acceptees of the awards. So I think with us back there, it takes away from that.
Yeah, my point, Quincy, is, but do they think it takes away from that? Or do they think that it somehow lessens it for them if we're not there?
Well, I guess we are there. We are sitting where everyone else sits, well, standing where everyone else is. So the perception that we're not there or we're not present and not understanding or what goes along with that, that's, I guess, I don't see that as being a true statement. We have, over the course of the last couple of years, we have given HRC high priority. We have made that through our voice and through our actions. So I think those things there, the history that we've had in the last couple of years has demonstrated our support for them, has demonstrated how important we think they are.
Mike, did you have a comment?
Yes, I do. Let me offer something up here, and maybe Dave, give me your thumbs up or thumbs down. The importance of the presentation being done in an open session can be very easily handled. We can go into session just like we normally do. We just excuse ourselves from the dais to go around the back. So we are in session. It is a agenda item. So it's formally there so that we can participate and we can see the people and the presenters and the recipients aren't putting their back to somebody. We could then just excuse ourselves from behind the dais, go out and participate from that way, but we are in session, formally in session. It is a formal agenda item, and I think we've got everything compromised. I think we've got everything covered at that point. Does that sound like a compromise, Dave?
It sounds like a compromise, but it's not one that I'm going to give a thumbs up to. I would invite you all to think about the optics of this at the time of the event. You have people from the community who have been chosen to receive an award. They may not necessarily be part of any other governmental activity. They're just doing their thing in the community, and they're being recognized for their contributions. They come into this room, HRC is there, and they're making their presentations. Number one, what does it look like if City Council is there, seated, participating in maybe a detached way, but just by the fact that we're there, present, wins something. It sends some sort of message. Contrast that to either we're not there or we're there and we get up and we walk into the room. Think about the impact of any of those three scenarios. And, you know, frankly, I would rather not be seated at all than to sit there and get up. I can only tell you, but I appreciate the effort, Mike. I truly do. I mean, a guy with a sign is someone to be listened to, right? But folks that I've talked to over a number of years since the change was made have commented on both the visual and implied impact of our absence to me. So that's part of the motivation for me to bring this up, is because people notice, even through the most subtle ways, or whether we're just sitting there or we're not there, it sends a message. And we need to think about what those messages are. So that I'm going to leave it at that.
Ooh, so now I'm a little confused. They would like this to be part of the agenda, and we are up at the dais, and they come up and present. That is what their proposal, or what they would,
How do I
That-
get,
That's what our proposal would be to them. I think that gives them the latitude to decide,
well,
what works best for them.
and that's some sort of justice. I would support that.
I'm going to go to Quincy was before Jay and then Jay.
We'll let Jay go.
Okay, go ahead, Jay.
I don't think I've ever been in city council chambers when there's been a lot of awards, recognitions, things from the governor. Everything we do involves council being up there and just the presence of that, not necessarily being presented to, but the presence of council is kind of an overarching kind of endorsement of what's going on. I have a different recollection that Mike has about why we made this change. And I'm glad that I think we've come a long way in the last 10 years. I think it's ironic that our diversity, equity, and inclusion is one of our #1 priorities, and we're talking about this right now. Is that my belief and recollection is that the Human Relations Commission was getting out in front of some members of council, maybe some members of our community, and felt that when we giving awards to members of the gay and lesbian community who are doing great things and helping us get to where we are today, there was maybe a need to separate their activities from council. And my recollection is that's why we got up and said, well, let's just not be back there and have it be kind of a different thing and get away from that. So I applaud Dave for bringing this up. He's absolutely right about the optics. There's no other award, resolution, or anything that's ever given the way that we've evolved with this thing. And I thought it was kind of insulting when we did it. I think it's been insulting. I think it came up last year in the 11th hour. And I would really encourage, given our diversity, equity, and inclusion learning curve that we're on, that this is a real big opportunity for all of us to kind of absorb this a little bit and make this change.
Quincy, do you want to go? Otherwise, I got Scott.
Yeah, I do. First of all, I don't think the HRC is I guess, Jay, it's not about just LGBT and inclusivity, or I won't say inclusivity, but it's not just about LGBTQ. It's about a broader umbrella than that. And then also to looking at all of the other things that happen where things are presented, those are presented by council. Am I correct?
No.
Okay.
I think we've got volunteers coming up, giving awards for people who have done great things, to the Capon House, to the Settlers House, to making a fundraiser for something where they raised money. It's a venue to thank people from the community, and the city benefits from way. So that's why we do it. That's why it's been that way.
Okay, so from my remembrance, I remember someone from council always, the mayor always presenting something. I don't remember other people strictly from the outside doing it during our council meetings.
Scott? Scott?
Yeah. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Hoekstra, you mentioned this was partly to deal with things like social justice awards, correct? If I'm not mistaken, you said that?
That's the nature of this particular ceremony, yes.
Okay, and while it is our committee, and we know that it's our board, and we appoint to that board, and we try to make sure diversity is part of the nature, the natural tendencies of the city of Holland and everything we do. That's great. But we've had a number of social justice issues come before us that we've, as a council, we've said we're not taking up these social justice issues as a whole, as a board. And when I hear Councilman Peters suggest or you suggest, or others suggest, that somehow, as we're standing behind the dais, that somehow we're taking a role in that. We're taking a position that we support maybe that specific social justice issue somebody is receiving an award on. I think I wonder if this is an end around to the policy that we've already set as a board not to do. So while I understand and I applaud, we have a board or commission doing a lot of work in the diversity and inclusion side of this. I guess I would ask the same question: is this an effort to endorse certain things that many of us have said already that we're not going to do as a board regarding social justice issues? And let's just bring, for instance, there's a group of people trying to work on licensing for undocumented workers. We've already said we're not going to take a role there. But then when we go in and provide it, if this board decides to recognize somebody for that effort, that conscious effort of doing that, it's a social justice award. And we're all sitting behind the dais supporting that. Does that also not reflect that we support that effort? So, I mean, we have to be careful I agree, we have to be very careful what we're displaying as a council. I don't disagree with Mike. Let's have it as a part of our board. Let's make sure it's part of our board. It's listed there. But that doesn't necessarily mean we as a board are endorsing the social justice issue that might be awarded to someone, or something that might be implied that we support it.
Yeah, Lynn.
Well, isn't it, Scott, though, just by the nature of it being a city commission, that it is supported by the city, regardless of what the representation is? And I would argue that what we're doing is supporting the work of the people of our community and the work they're doing to make whatever efforts they're doing. So that's who we're supporting. And just by the nature of it, of the HRC being part of our city work, we support them.
So when was the last time HRC provided an award to a police officer for stopping domestic violence?
Oh, for God's sake.
Oh, don't stop, Jay. You're on record. What I'm saying is there are a lot of social justice issues out there. And I'm not suggesting that we should acknowledge it, but how broad and wide are we taking the Human Relations Commission? How far and wide are we taking that?
I think the way they do the social justice awards, correct me if I'm wrong here, Dave, is that they put out a request for nominations, and people in the community nominate in several categories: education, youth, housing. I can't remember if there's a fourth one. And so people members of our community nominate organizations and individuals who have done great work in those areas in those areas. So that's how, so whether or not the issue the person you just mentioned, a police officer addressing a domestic violence, I don't know whether that fits into a category, but we're all able to make nominations. And then the HRC, which I understand is quite a diverse group, makes decisions about how those get distributed or get awarded.
Is this any different, Dave? Just a second, I want to do a follow-up on what Scott was saying and what Lynn was saying. In every single meeting agenda, regular meeting agenda, we've got the opportunity, council members have the opportunity to communicate to council what's going on either in the community or with specific boards or commissions that they are liaisons to. Would it be any different than Mike reporting on the Police Community Relations Commission, Firefighter of the Year, Police Officer of the Year, as nominated by those? I mean, is that a way to be able to address this so that it's not something that's different than what's going on in the rest of the city organization, but fits it into what we're doing already? That you're the liaison to HRC, that you make a report from HRC as part of appointments, motions, and communications from council members. And that when Police Officer of the Year is named, Mike's making a report to council of who the Police Officer of the Year is.
Who is this question to?
To Dave.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were
thinking there, Dave.
I was thinking about something else. No, I think, to your point, Mayor, I think you're correct about that. And probably we should have more of that sort of reporting going on. What I was just thinking about was, I wish I had it in front of me, the list of past recipients over the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years, however long this has been in existence. But if you would look at that, you would see quite a wide variety and a broad spectrum of recipients representing individuals and corporations, nonprofits. I wouldn't be surprised if some of our own governmental institutions like Public Safety was represented there as well. You know, basically, this is just an opportunity for the community to say to other members of the community, way to go, way to support the community, way to do the right thing, way to help people, way to set an example. And that's basically, in a nutshell, what this is all about. You know, we can make this into a much larger discussion, which it seems to be going in that direction. And it wasn't my intention to do that. And probably with, you know, a lot of validation in a number of arguments. But frankly, you know, I guess I would say, let's not make this a bigger deal than it is. It's a way for the community to say to itself, way to go, you've done a good job, way to look out for each other. And that in its most elemental form is what this is about. And what I'm proposing is we give HRC the opportunity to use our venue, our process, as their venue to put this forward. So, you know, I guess I'm done.
Any other comments, discussion from council? Yeah, Mike.
Let me finish up with that. Dave, I respect the heck out of you. You know that.
Yeah, but you got to sign.
Well, I'm just going to be very blunt here. I am sick and tired of looking at the back of people's heads. That's the only reason I made that alternate motion now. Or not, I didn't even make a motion out of it. I offered that suggestion. Being part of, I mean, it's going, what I suggested was being part of the agenda, which is what you had asked for, being part of the formal agenda. But to have us, I would just as soon look at the people when they're getting their awards. I mean, as I said before, the rules of council say that you were making the presentation to council. And when the mayor does his, whatever mayor it was, made their public recognition, or when the Holland Bloom and whatever, they presented to council. 90% of that was because there wasn't a whole lot of people in the audience to be presenting to, but the rules are you make the presentation to council. So we're there. We are in session. We are the legal body. We just don't happen to be sitting in our chairs, but we are still part of the celebration and having the people looking at us and we're looking at them. That's all I'm trying to do. There's nothing, you're absolutely correct. We're trying to celebrate what people have done, gone over and above. This group has made this recommendation by nominations from the community, and it's a celebration of that. Personally, I don't think we're celebrating sitting behind there because we can't see what's going on. That's my only point.
Ben, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I don't know why they couldn't just turn around and face us and
Well,
do the presentation facing us. And there, all of the people in the audience is supporting them as well. And so I would leave that. I agree with Dave. I would leave it to the HRC to present as they see fit, and maybe they'll decide that they don't really want to do what we're suggesting. Right now, they don't have the option. So I agree with Dave.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I agree. Yeah,
Quincy?
Fair enough.
that sounds good.
I guess they're not presenting to us though, Lynn. It's not about us.
Well,
Much
I
as
think
everyone wants to make it about us. It's not about us. It's about the individual who's getting their award, period. And in my point of view.
So I think that's a fair point. I still go back to what Dave has said, that the HRC has been having conversations about this and have expressed an interest in presenting as they used to. So this would just give them an option to do that if they chose to.
Okay, if that's the case, then HRC should come to us and talk to us about that. We don't make that decision for them.
They're doing that now.
Not in that case, I guess.
Quincy, they're doing that now through Dave, their liaison.
So Dave, they're requesting that you do this, or are you doing this on your own? Because from what it sounded like before, they had not requested that.
I am making this a request with their full knowledge and support.
Okay.
And how do we do this? Do we make a motion or what?
There's already a motion on the floor with support that we're discussing right now.
It's been so long.
You've got that written down. Do you want to repeat that? It's been a little bit.
What day is it?
Or did you do that? Did you do that off the top of your head? I thought you were reading it.
I was, yes. The motion I made was to extend an invitation to the Human Relations Commission to include the Social Justice Awards ceremony into a council business meeting agenda, and that we forward a written notice of such invitation to the HRC.
Thanks, Dave. Scott.
So while the motion's on the table, I don't believe I can support it, and I'm going to explain why I can't support it. I respect my colleagues and I respect the HRC and the task that's been assigned, and that it's doing some wonderful work. But when we start talking about social justice issues, it's a very broad area. And it's some things that I believe we've already taken a position as council to be exercise caution on speaking as a council, and transparently both Councilman Hoekstra and Peters has mentioned that in our absence is if somehow we're not supportive of the measure or the presentation before us. So I would also say that by our presence, that somehow we do support it as a board. And I'm afraid that I don't know what social justice issues will become, awards will come before us. And that I don't know that, to me, that I can stand behind all those awards that are presented. So for me, I just can't support this measure. I think it should be opened as a meeting. We should allow or permit them to use our forum to present their awards because they are a committee of ours. But I don't believe the council should have to or should be in a way standing at the dais showing or any kind of display that they endorse everything that's coming across before us. So I'll not be able to support the measure.
Any other discussion? Yeah, Raul.
Yeah, Scott, I respect that, and I can understand, I think, that perspective. I mean, knowing the kinds of awards that have come, that have been presented in that context, I don't know that I feel the same kind of threat. So I would support this, or will support this. And I also say that I think in the 3 or 4, the 3 years that I've been on council, but I think the 4 last sessions that I've been able to be a part of for those award ceremonies, it does feel completely separate. I mean, it feels like we're just kind of waiting for that to be over so that we can start the real business. It doesn't feel like it's a part of something that we celebrate. And I think that's wrong. Given the importance of these awards and recipients, I think it's only honorable. And I do think it makes a different statement for us to be upfront, and maybe even applaud, right? I mean, behind them, congratulations, as opposed to just being a member of the audience, because we do have a significant role. So that's where I'm at.
Thanks, Raul. Any other discussion? We got a motion, we've got support. Discussion is concluded. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Trethewey,
Oh, God, you had to start with me. Yes.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Respectfully, no.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
No.
Peters,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-2.
Thank you. Any other motions, communications, appointments from city council members? Oh, yes, Quincy.
I have a few things I wanted to say. This is one of them is about the dog park. I think that I'm really excited about the dog park. I don't have a dog, but I'm excited to see that we have that in the community. One of the requests I had earlier was to see a before and after picture or video. So hopefully we can get that done. And then just thinking ahead, I think this is really going to explode in the community.
Gonna run out of juice.
I don't know if you guys have looked at the parking situation or not. I don't know how many we have or if there may be a possibility to expand or something, but just wanted to throw that out there. And then we're all aware of the situation we find ourselves in today with COVID, and it has been taxing, it has been strenuous, it has been everything opposite of good. The one good thing that I can say out of COVID is we have, as a family, had the opportunity to sit down and have more time together as a family. And I've enjoyed that with my kids. I have a 25-year-old son, and probably 3 weeks ago, he was 5 years old riding his bike, teaching him how to ride his bike. So time flies. So I really enjoy this opportunity. And I could say that's probably one of the best things to come out of COVID. Now, saying that, I know our city workers under Keith have done a tremendous job, and I really want to applaud you guys, Keith, and all the city workers, and Matt, everything that you guys have done, the situation that we find ourselves in. And I think you guys have done an exceptional job, and I want to thank you for that. And then, yes, absolutely applaud. And, you know, looking at the mental health side of things that have happened, we've had some young kids who have taken their life because of the mental health side of what's going on. And as Matt Messer, Chief Messer, commented on earlier about the domestic violence and all the things that are not talked about throughout COVID that are very, very real. And these, you know, COVID is we're in a situation that will pass. But the effects of COVID that are on the mental health side, when someone takes their life or there's a domestic abuse or all the other things that go along with that, those things will never pass. Those things will be with individuals for the rest of their life. And so I guess as a council, we have to be understanding, and I don't know what we can do about those things, but the one thing that we can do is encourage our city workers, encourage our fire department, encourage our police department, and commend them on the job that they have to do and seeing the side effects that we don't get to see. And I'm very, very thankful that I don't get to see the stuff that they get to see on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times a day. So I really am appreciative of our our city workers and our fire department and our police department. And I wanted to share that. And then also, we going along with that for our police department, we did the brain doctor a handful of years ago. We ended up approving that for our police department. So looking back, hindsight, that was one of the best things that I think we could have done in light of what's going on right now. That's a tool that, you know, we didn't think we would be using in this capacity, but here we are, we have the tool to be used. And again, very, very glad that it was presented to us, very glad that we're able to have our police and I believe the fire department to utilize this tool. And from our council perspective, I think COVID sucks because in my personal view, I don't think as a council we are adhesive as we could be. We don't get to sit and have our dinners and talk to one another and get to converse and make fun of the Michigan State fans who are around and all of that good stuff. You know, I haven't got to talk with the mayor very much. Mike Trattori has been a mentor to me. I haven't been able to sit and talk with him very much. Lynn, I've known Lynn for close to 15 years. I haven't been able to get to sit and talk with her. Don't even know Nikki, haven't got to sit and talk with her. Raul, I haven't got to talk to any of you. And because of that, I think our group, our body suffers tremendously. And so I am really looking forward to the time where we are beyond COVID and we get to sit, converse, understand some of the things that make us click, some of the things that set us off. And there's a lot to be said with that because we're supposed to work as individuals, but as a unit, right? And you know how a unit works. We understand each other. So I think that's one of the things that's missing in our group here. And I really miss that because there's a lot that we could do. You know, there's things that I disagree completely on with some individuals, but I haven't had the opportunity to sit and see exactly where they're coming from on a personal level. And that means a lot to individuals when they're making decisions. And you haven't got to see personally where I'm coming from and what drives my decisions and my ideology and thought process. So those are some of the things that I just wanted to share. And I'm very hopeful that this will get behind us and, you know, we move on and we see sunnier days. So, and on that note, December 16th, I will be heading to sunnier lands and I will not be a part of this cold, gloomy Michigan winter. I don't know if we'll be at our destination on the 16th or not. I may be able to do a Zoom call, but I might
Don't do it.
I might be in shorts and have a beer in my hand.
Don't do it.
You will, we will.
Just rubbing it in. That's all you'll be doing.
What, suntan lotion? Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Quincy. We'd love to see you on the 16th, but we understand completely. And we wish, hey, can we come with you?
Yeah, come on. We can do it down there on the beach. I don't know how efficient we'll be, but.
Great. Thank you for that. Anything else? I don't want to cut. I didn't mean to cut you off if I did.
I'm done.
All right. Any other communications from council members?
Just one question for Ron. So if I were to log in at next meeting and I were to say, this is Scott Corbin attending teleconference from Florida, would that be permissible to vote?
That would be permissible, Scott. Yes, without a doubt. You do have to be here for the whole meeting, though. You can't bug out early.
Texas, here I come.
Oh, and you do have to wear a tie if you're on the beach.
You did clarify
Let's
how.
go.
That's good.
That's all.
I got one more motion I'll entertain.
Motion
Support.
to adjourn.
Moved by Trethewey, preemptively supported by Peter.
Support,
Uh,
support.
We're going to do a roll call on everything tonight. So Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Oh, no.
Arnshorst,
Yes.
Corbin,
Yes.
Hoekstra,
Yes.
Raymond,
Yes.
Bird,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Trethewey,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes.
We're adjourned.
Merry Christmas.
All right.
Merry Christmas, Quincy, if we don't see you.
All right.
See you.